Being told that nursing, physical therapy, physician assistant, social work, public health, pathology, and so much more are not going to be considered a professional degree. Mind you, these are the ones that save human lives. And there's currently a nurse shortage, which doesn't make it any better. And those who are currently majoring and those pretty much have to go get their license, have to go through med school, pretty much spending money out of their pocket or getting student loans in order to pay, and then come out and say that this is not professional. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. So the videos we're going to be checking out today are videos about the major changes that the U.S. Department of Education is making or they are planning to make. Specifically, it's how they define or what they count as professional degrees and how that could really impact people training in healthcare, nursing, and related fields. So the Department of Education is choosing some degrees to not be considered as professional degrees. This is getting a lot of pushbacks from people because the downside of it is the fact that when you're trying to get student loan, the federal student loan to get these degrees will actually be lowered and you're not going to get as much as you used to get before. That is going to push a lot of people to either have to pay out of pocket. Some people have to actually go to private loans, and that is not really advisable. It's not the route that a lot of people want to take. So we're going to be checking out this video and see what people are saying about this and what they think about this. But before we get right into this video, please make sure you click the like button. It helps with the algorithm and I appreciate that so much. Let's get right into this video.
So the list of degrees that you see right here, these are the ones that they're deeming to be considered professional, okay? And only these 11 degrees that they're going to consider to be professional if this passed. Okay, and this is all Trump's idea. Okay, he wants to privatize where you have to get your loans through other companies, which are going to have very strict stipulations, and that's it. So, which means if you decide to go to school for all the other degrees that's on my other previous video, they're going to cap it at a certain amount to where you can only get that amount, and that's it. Okay, for that year, and you have to pay the rest out of pocket. On that list was nursing degrees, all kinds of stuff, educators, social workers, everything that you need to make the world go round. They're not going to consider professional. But these 11 degrees are going to be the only degrees if this passes through. If this happens, if they let all of this take place, okay? These are going to be the only degrees they're going to be deemed considered professional. That means me as an educator, I will be no longer, I guess, considered a professional, or my degree pretty much was 4 years of college and all of those things that I have to do to even my 3 certifications tests that I have to pay money for it to get, and everything else was what? A slap in the face. I just wasted 4 years plus what, maybe 5 you can say, from doing everything and nothing happens. Nurses went to school and crying and bleeding tears because nursing school is hard. That's a slap in the face, and they're going to not be deemed professional careers. What the hell is going on in America?
There is something extremely disturbing about all of the professions that have been stripped from professional degrees according to the new mandates, and nobody is talking about it, and it is extremely interesting that this has happened while we were all distracted by the Epstein files. Let's get into it. So it is Thursday, November 20th. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. And recently, over the last couple of days, we've heard of a number of degrees that are no longer going to be considered professional degrees, so can't get the financial aid through the federal government that they usually did. These things include masters and doctorates in education, CNAs, physician's assistants, nurse practitioners, social workers, counselors, OT, PT, all of these things. Not only are they women-dominated fields, you want to know the other thing they all have in common?
They're all our mandated reporters.
They're all mandated reporters. How interesting that they did this while we were all distracted by the Epstein files. If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck.
Might as well use it as a cover-up.
And that's something that nobody is talking about right now. Yes, they are all women-dominated fields. Yes, this is another attack on women that's been dressed up as something else. But these are all also mandated reporting careers that protect the children.
So news sources have released that nursing in 2026 will no longer be considered as a professional degree. You mean to tell me the profession that's supposed to be the most trusted is going to be classified as professional? I don't understand that. You mean, but you know what? As I've been in nursing, I have seen so much, and people don't really respect nurses like you think. Like, patients in general have got meaner. Physicians have got meaner. Everybody has got meaner. The nurse workload has got heavier. But we're not a professional degree holder. This is going to make it extremely hard for people pursuing these in nursing and graduate level college recipients to obtain any type of federal funding to cover their expenses from school. As a result, you'll be taking out more loans, which is going to increase your debt to get those higher level degrees. As a result, less people are going to want to obtain those degrees because it takes money to make money. A lot of people don't have that extra money sitting around to go throw it into.
The Department of Education has now come out with a list of degrees that they are saying will no longer be considered professional. And this list will take effect July of 2026. Some of the degrees that they said are no longer professional include a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, advanced nurse practitioner, nurse practitioners, a physician assistant, teachers, a speech language pathologist, and there's more. But when I saw this again, I couldn't believe it. Because what does that mean on the back end? On the back end, that means that they are attacking female-dominant fields. That's a major blow right there. And secondly, people that are interested in those specific degrees will have a lesser chance in getting the federal funding that they need to get in those programs. And people voted for this. It's becoming to the point where y'all did not take Project 2025 serious. And it's sad. Because these people are stripping everything that they can away from the Department of Education. And it's sad. It's really getting on my nerves, and I'm just really getting sick of it.
I just found out that my degree is useless. I got my master's in public health like 5 months ago. I don't even know, but apparently it don't even matter anymore. I think it's so interesting that the Department of Education specifically chose female fields. Like, let's call it what it is, female fields. Like, these types of degrees and master's degrees that mainly are dominated by women, which regardless, master's degrees, PhDs, these different fields are going to be more dominated by women as time goes on because more women are getting their degrees than men are. Let's be so for real. But I think it's very interesting the ones they chose, okay? That are typically taken over by women and how this like converges with this new conservative idea of how like men in certain spaces and spheres think that, you know, education and careers are what's keeping women from having kids because the birth rate is at like a 1.3 right now. The thing is, if my degree's useless, then give me my money back, run me my check, because I pulled like the amount of loans you have to take out for these master's degrees is insane. It's robbery actually, especially if you have to move to a place, get an apartment, and like get a job and live there and do all this and that. But I think it's interesting that they're lowering the amount of money that you're gonna get in student loans, which means you're gonna more likely, you have to take out private loans to finish these degrees. You're not gonna be able to finish them with just the student loans, the federal loans you normally get, which means less people are gonna get these degrees. And also, if this degree is not considered a professional degree anymore under the Department of Education, certain jobs are gonna be like, we don't really care that you, like, they're not going to pay you more for the degree that you earned in this specific field. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could go and work in public health in anything. I don't need to have a degree to work in public health. However, getting a degree in public health will get me into certain positions that are specified to my actual, like, what I worked for, right? So I worked in policy and advocacy, and I wanted to do that. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's interesting because it's like, you want the people to have babies. You want the women to have babies, okay? Because you are tired of them going to school. But you will not provide them with any health insurance. You will not provide them with jobs to maintain these children because the men's jobs are not enough to maintain. People have to have 2 jobs in that household. Okay, in a cishet household, you have to have 2 to maintain those babies. You want us to, like, to go back to these old values. Like, what world are you living in if you think that taking the professional degree out, and also nurse practitioner, are we okay? Oh my gosh, what are y'all smoking? What is RFK smoking up in there? Like, taking that out, it's like, you think that this is gonna stop people from going to school? It's gonna stop a lot of people from going to school, I'm not gonna lie. But the carnage you're about to ensue If you thought that I was insufferable, I've met more insufferable graduate students. You don't know who you're messing with.
Just woke up from a most glorious nap to the most not so glorious news. What are we talking about that the Department of Education is saying that engineering is not a professional degree anymore? Engineering? Sister. Engineering. Where my lessons are starting to look like this. This is one problem. I lose more and more faith in this country daily.
Now, the thing is, how are people going to treat you just because the Department of Education considers your degree as not professional? Is something that nobody, like, we really don't know if that's going to affect how you're treated, maybe at your workplace or wherever, if that really matters. But the main issue and people's main complaints and their biggest problems is really pertaining to loans and how that's going to affect people being able to afford those degrees because they are quite expensive. And we don't even know if the institutions are going to increase the tuition and will it go down or is it just gonna go up? I feel like this might actually make fewer students enroll and they might not see as much people going into it. These are all speculations. We don't know how it's gonna turn out to be.
Truly can't make this stuff up. The Department of Education is changing what counts as a professional degree. They're taking nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and advanced public health degrees off the list. This means that students who want to pursue these degrees will not qualify for the same types of federal student loan limits that other professional degree students get. In other words, it's going to be harder and more expensive for future PAs, NPs, public health professionals to go to school, meaning we could reduce the amount of public health professionals that we have graduating these programs for who knows how many years. And we know that NPs and PAs fill real gaps in care, especially in rural communities, especially in underserved communities. We cannot have a lapse in the number of professionals that we have in these areas. Not only is it going to hurt these communities, it's going to impact access of care for everybody. My primary care physician is an NP. When I had knee surgery, I saw a PA. The Department of Education, though, it's not too late to do something about this. There is going to be a 30-day public comment period opening soon, and we need everybody to raise awareness, speak up. We can't have this happen. We can't miss a generation or generations of healthcare professionals that we need as we age, as our parents age, as we have kids. No. And not enough people know about this.
They done just declared war on nurses, women, black women, education, and we got to talk about it. A degree in nursing will no longer be considered a professional degree, but a graduate degree from the perspective of the federal government. Now, this is going to affect not only nursing, but other degrees. And what it's going to cause primarily is that you can only borrow $20,000 per year, and then there's a capped amount, whereas a professional degree, like somebody like a doctor, can borrow up to $50,000 a year. Now, what the government is saying is that this will force the prices of these nursing schools to come down to sort of meet what the federal government is giving out. But of course, you and I, we know that never really happens. Now, to me, when I saw it, it clearly looks like something that fits into the agenda of this current administration and what they're trying to do. They said that they were going to gut the Department of Education. And this has meant moving a lot of those different aspects of the Department of Education into other departments as they gut the Department of Education. But kind of, just to give you an analogy, it's kind of like Uno stacking. They don't do anything unless it's going to cause the maximum hurt, the maximum harm, the maximum pain. And so the first thing that this is going to do is it's going to demoralize a lot of people. So if you've gone to school for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years in attaining those degrees and becoming a professional, even though this classification doesn't mean that you're not a professional, just saying the word has an effect. When they say that you are no longer considered a professional from the standard of the federal government, just saying that has an effect. And so for all of you women out there who are not what they would call minorities, now you know how it feels to be called a minority, because a minority is really somebody who is under the age of 18, and they have put you in the position of a child by using a classification. Now, this is what these people do. They do all kinds of divide and conquer tactics. And so while it's not a hot war, it is a war of words. And once those programmed words get into your mind, they definitely have an effect. Now, any doctor who is quietly sitting around saying, yes, they took a stab at those nurses. And one doctor even admitted that he was jealous because doctors have to go through a little bit more to be doctors. And yet nurses are making the same kinds of salaries when they do the stacking of their particular certifications. OK, but the doctors are only going to have a little moment of ego stroke as people start to leave the nursing field and people don't even get into the nursing field. And there's a shortage of nurses already. So as doctors have to do the brunt of the work and they start to make mistakes and those mistakes start to mount up malpractice costs, even the doctors are going to suffer because of this situation. Now, again, going back to my analogy of Uno stacking, this is going to hurt the economy because foreigners who come here to get an education in nursing and see that as a track and a path forward, even if they go home or even if they stay here and contribute to our economy, they will no longer be able to do this. So by devaluing the educational system in America, you're essentially hurting the whole country, okay? Now, another thing it's going to do, it is going to bolster this perception of women as second-class citizens. Oh, you weren't able to become a doctor, and so you're just a nurse, when the truth is anything but. These people are consummate professionals who have to continue and continue and continue to get education, and that's why you can go to a nurse practitioner and you don't even have to go to a doctor, because they are just as educated and just as experienced as your medical doctors. So if you think any of this is happenstance or just chance or just people who are short-sighted, no. What I want you to know is that there is a plan to take this country down. And if you don't understand that these people have this as a plan, then, just wait till the next thing happens and you will further understand that this is the plan. This is a plot of some people who really don't have the same vision for America as you. Now, part of the plan is to have foreigners not want to come here. Part of the plan is to have some of the people jump ship. And so we as, and I'm just going to talk to the culture now, you know what I mean? What we have to understand is we've put a lot of our stock into education. We've put a lot of our stock into the political system. We've put a lot of our stock into the belief that, intellectualism would win the day. What we have to understand is that there is a spiritual war being fought. Okay. And so, again, that's why I don't care. I'll ride with Prophetess Celestial to the end, because she's been calling this all along. And if you don't see that these steps, and God is trying to tell you that these steps are lining up to put you in a certain position, and that is to roll us back 100, 200, 300 years to where women were in the kitchen, to where black people had nothing. If you don't see that that is the plan. Now, I understand that you would think that it's so insane that somebody would think like this in a modern era where we're moving into a technological society, where we're moving into more diversity, where people are traveling all over the world and the world over and seeing what the world is. What you have to get is that everybody does not necessarily see the world in the way that you see it, or want a world that is in the way that you see it, okay? And people drive policy. So policies don't just get written by themselves. There are people who drive those policies forward. Now, ultimately, this is not going to work out for those people who will pay the very, 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 very expensive price of racism over paying the price of diversity and tolerance and getting along with their neighbor. Okay, it's not going to work out ultimately, but in the short term, which I'm saying is the next maybe 5 to 10 years, we're going to suffer a lot for wanting to live in the ghost of a dead reality. Okay, so whatever reality you thought existed, that existed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that reality no longer exists. And you have to shake off this idea that there's anybody coming to save you, coming to change your condition other than yourself. Furthermore, my advice is that you have to put yourself in front of the line of everybody, period. Okay, do not champion oligarchs because they've got money, billionaires because they've got money, these people because they play the game. They play the game in a certain way that leaves you on the outside and slowly but surely sucks everything from you, okay? And so what we have to do is we have to align with people who have the same kind of mindset as us, and we have to shut the door on people who want another vision of a reality for themselves, okay? Separation. We gotta separate. I'm not saying segregate, I'm saying separate. I'm saying get the heck away from people who only want to see you as a second-class citizen or worse. It is what it is. Y'all have a good day.
For now, the final regulation hasn't been fully published, so the professional degree definition is still, under negotiated rulemaking. People who are already enrolled into these programs, I feel like when it gets to July 1st, 2026, you may be, considered as someone who's under the old rules. So your loan limits might not change, possibly. Well, who knows? At this point with this administration, there's just so many changes that keeps happening and a lot of things that people are not happy with. Just go to sleep and we wake up the next day not knowing what to expect. Like there's just going to be something crazy coming on, or there's going to be this changes, that changes. Something crazy is just going to happen next. It's really mostly unfavorable for people. So it's like, when are we actually going to get real changes that really positively impacts the people rather than changes that kind of dwindles a person's life and make things go downhill rather than uphill? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this. You've made it to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. Please don't forget to click the like button. It helps with the algorithm and I appreciate that so much. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you're watching me for the very first time. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time I post a new video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.